Perfect. Recording in progress, everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to Is This Team Building slash you call that team building slash Brittany and Lauren take over the world for team building.
Woo!
We're going to have some fun today. This is designed to be an interactive session, so please communicate in the chat. Let us know. Actually, put in the chat, where are you zooming in from? I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Brittany and I are both in Charlotte. So yeah, let us know. The chat is active, so please feel free to put some information in there. And when we kick off, I think I'm ready to introduce our first presenter. Are y'all ready? Yeah, we can't wait. We're so excited. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Super excited to introduce your co-host, Brittany Canaski. Brittany Canaski is a highly rated leadership, life and leadership coach and trainer who empowers professionals and teams with the tools they need to accelerate their goals, both inside and outside of the workforce. She was recently acknowledged as one of the top 15 coaches in Charlotte for the second year in a row by Influence Digest. Congratulations. Brittany leverages her decade of experience in corporate America, often being the youngest person in the room presenting to C-suite executives. She brings a fresh perspective to organizations that connects audiences of all ages. She will happily be your millennial translator. She has a bachelor's degree from Cornell University and graduated from a 12-month intensive leadership and coaching program with Accomplishment Coaching. When she isn't building her business, you can find her planning her next travel adventure, taking kickboxing or yoga classes, or checking out a local brewery. Please join me in welcoming Brittany Canaski.
Yay! Hi, everyone. Thank you, Lauren, for the awesome introduction. Ooh, look at me highlighted here. And with that, too, I'd love to introduce my co-host today. I know this is going to shock you all. Lauren Ansley. What? Hello. Let me tell you a little bit more about Lauren. So, as a corporate entertainer and trainer, Lauren works with organizations to infuse energy and connection into their meetings, conferences, and special events. Look, you even have fans in the chat already. Jen knows Lauren. She's a keynote speaker, corporate MC, and humorist, providing interactive entertainment, keynote presentations, and public speaking skills training. Lauren is the founder and CEO of Ansley Corporate Entertainment and instructor of the Women's Stand-Up Comedy class here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you, Brittany. So excited to be here today. All right. So now is the very smooth part where I pretend like I'm not spotlit in front of everyone and I figure out how to share my screen.
Yes. Let me distract you. Look over here. Look over here. She'll figure it out.
This is one of those things. Let me see. Let me move this over here. Full screen. Got it. All right. Stop share. Share. Don't you love when people just go through every step while they're doing it? I know I do. Okay.
So exciting.
Yay. Okay.
It's how we learn.
That's right. How kind of you, Stephanie. Like, that's Stephanie. All right. So yes, today's session is You Call That Team Building. So Brittany, would you like to tell them what we're going to do today?
Yes, we have a wonderful agenda for us today. First, obviously, welcoming everyone. I'm doing a quick introduction of Lauren and myself. Check. Next up, we're going to define team building. So make sure we're all on the same page today. Then we're going to play a fun game show called Is It Team Building? Quick reference to Netflix, Is It Cake? But also no trademark here. Don't tell Netflix. Thank you. And after that, we have a team building roadmap we'll go through with some specific ideas for y'all to take away. And then we'd love to hear from you with some discussion of your takeaways for today, any questions you have. And then at the end, make sure you stay for the end. We have some good news to share with you. And we probably will not need the whole hour, as a heads up for anyone that may have a meeting right after this.
Perfect. All right. Would you like to tell us the difference between team building and team bonding?
Yes, this is really important. We wanted to emphasize this first before we go any deeper into this topic today. It's important to notice that these words often are used interchangeably, but they are in fact different. But I do want to emphasize too that they both bring value. So we do want to have both a nice balance of both, but let's kind of understand these a little bit deeper first. So team bonding, these are activities and events that enhance interpersonal relationships within the team. So we're getting to know each other better. That can build some trust along the team, but it's mostly focused on socializing, and there's little to no structure for the event. But team building, on the other hand, these are activities and events that help teach the team members new skills to help them work more effectively together. They could be either hard or soft skills. So this can look like anything from more formal trainings and workshops or indirect learnings through intentional activities or discussions. So spoiler alert, this is what we're talking about today. And one other layer to this that Lauren and I like to emphasize when it comes to team building is thinking about it like a story. So the three key parts of a story and team building is that it has to have a beginning, middle, and end. So the beginning of a story and team building is the plot. So here is, setting the stage why we're here for the team building and getting to know each other, kind of warming up. The middle in a story is the problem. What's that climax? So when it comes to team building, that's usually some sort of problem solving, a challenge we're overcoming together, or some sort of game or activity that requires problem solving. And then the end in a story is the solution. How are we wrapping all of this up? So when it comes to team building, think about it with some debriefs or conversations at the end of how are we actually going to bring these learnings into the workplace. That is the most important part that's often forgotten by most people. So now, to help us learn what this looks like in the real world, I'm going to pass it over to Lauren to walk us through with our game show today.
Yay! Thank you so much, Brittany. All right. You may have seen I had a little technical thing happen. So
spoilers.
Here we go. All right. Oh, what just happened? All right, everybody. I don't know what's happening right now, but we're so excited to see your smiling faces today. We've gone over differences between team building and team bonding, and now it's put the knowledge to the test with some example scenarios. So please welcome to Is It Hey? I mean, just kidding. Is it team building? Please join me in welcoming your host of today's team building session, game show, Lauren Ansley, which is also me. Fade out the music. Okay. I wish you could see my screen because this graphic is just all over my screen right now. Powering through the situation. All right, everyone. So I'm going to go through 3 scenarios with you today. And I'd love it if you would put in the chat your guess for is it team building or is it not? You can simply say, yes, it is team building, or no, it is not. If you are on camera and you'd also like to visibly vote, you can just do a thumbs up, or thumbs down. Thumbs up for team building, thumbs down if it's not team building. All right, scenario number 1. Office happy hours. Every Thursday, like clockwork, at 4:45, staff members are invited to join in the break room for a refreshing beverage, depending on the part of the country you are in and how annoying you are. There are typically some light bites and a few different drinks to choose from, both, high test and non-alcoholic. So is it team building? Okay, I see some thumbs down. No.
Lots of nopes in the chat.
Nope. All right. Very nice. Okay. Those are all votes no. So Brittany's going to actually debrief you at the end. So we're just going to go on to our next scenario first. Scenario number 2 is Soup Kitchen. Once a quarter, you can sign up to volunteer at your local soup kitchen through your work. Volunteers meet for up to 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon, serve a meal for the community at a local food pantry. This initiative is part of your company's Give Back program. So, is it team building? Oh, this one's mixed.
Some no's, a yes. Okay.
A little bit of a split there. A little bit of a split. Okay. All right. Interesting. Let's go on to scenario number 3, and then Brittany will give us the full debrief. Scenario number 3, build a bike. Your team assembles together in small groups in a room. Each small group, aka team, is tasked with reading the instructions and assembling a bike, and then will be given to a local charity and distributed towards for children in the community. You have to read the instructions, you have to work together, you have to use the tools provided, test it, make sure it's a fully functioning bike in a specific time frame. So is it team building?
Ooh, a lot of quick yeses already.
Yeses. All right. Thank you so much for playing. So, Brittany, could you please do a wrap up of each of these activities? Let us know, is it team building?
All right, let's go back to scenario 1, office happy hours. This one is no. So you all were correct with that one. Again, this goes back to the definition, team bonding versus team building. And this definitely lies in the team bonding aspect where we're just getting to know each other over some drinks. There's no agenda or intentionality to the event. It's more the physical being there together, drinking and bonding, but not so much the team building. All right. Next up, scenario number 2, the soup kitchen. This one, it depends. So everyone is right on this one. We had some yeses and nos. And when we talked through this one specifically, Lauren and I, we decided it can be, again, if you're thinking about the middle or beginning, middle, and end like a story. So if you're being intentional with when you get there or before you even get there, why are we here today? What are we looking to get from this? And then a debrief at the end of, hey, what did we learn today? What are we bringing back into the workplace? And maybe what are we going to do differently now that we've had this experience? But we see this a lot with organizations who do things like this. It's just show up at this time, do this activity, and then leave. And then no one really ever thinks about it again or learns much from it. So that is number 2, why it depends. Lastly, number 3, the build a bike. This one, drum roll, yes. What? You were all right with this one as well. There was a lot of intentionality to the activity people are doing. There's specific skills we're working through, like problem solving, communication, working within the time parameters, and we will take these learnings from this activity back into the workplace.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. So I think everyone they all won.
Everyone's winning today because we're all learning. Yay!
So that's what you've won. Knowledge. Yay!
Wow. Make sure you tell your bosses, right, that we all were very productive on our lunch break today.
Yes, love it. So then really one thing that we like to stress, like Brittany's been talking about, is the beginning, the middle, and the end. So we've actually created a team building roadmap to help you identify and how you can create team building experiences that have intentionality, that have the meaning behind it, that have the debriefing and all of that. So this is basically what it looks like. We're going to be diving into each of these 5 stops along the way, if you will, along this roadmap. So I'm going to talk about the first one, and then we're going to kind of bounce off of each other for the remaining items. So the watch for broken ice. This is the icebreakers. This is the part that everyone seems to have in team building. Let's face it, you've worked together for a while. You have assumptions that you know each other, right? Because you've made those assumptions. Maybe you've got to know some people, maybe not everybody. But these are designed for people to really literally break the ice with each other. Because when we're doing team building, it's intentional. It's a little bit more in depth. It's a little bit more, goes beyond surface level of the people that we work with on a day-to-day basis. So we need to take it slowly. We need to, step into the water slowly versus just cannonball in the deep end. So this is where we'll do lighthearted icebreakers. Just a little bit more fun, a little bit, it's intentional, and it is introvert approved, by the way, and non-cheesy. Very important for icebreakers. Lauren Loughran's like, yes. And they are designed to build trust, rapport, and connection. So don't there's lots of different icebreakers. One of the ones that I like to do is where you team up with someone that you don't normally work with, and we ask you a pretty easy question, like talk with your partner. What's your favorite breakfast cereal? What is something that people might be surprised about to know about your job? Or what TV show are you currently binging? So it's just starting to scratch the surface of the conversation. But then you ask the question and then you let the conversation continue in an organic way until you mix them up with another person. So we always encourage a variety of icebreakers to kick off the start of the team building experience. Next.
Yes, next up, common ground ahead. So I would say too, when it comes back to the story ideas of the beginning, middle, and end, I'd say the icebreaker is more the beginning. Now we're starting to move ahead to more the middle ground. So we're going a little bit deeper here. And the common ground ahead area, we like to do this with some intentional getting to know you games. So they're fun, informal activities where we want each person sharing either their opinion about something, very low stakes, or maybe favorite activities to find what we have in common. So this is super important because it breaks down judgments that we may, again, thinking about different assumptions we have as humans. This is very natural for us to do. And especially in the workplace, we see it all the time across different roles, different ages, different backgrounds. We make these assumptions that we may not have something in common with someone else. So this is going to help us go a little bit deeper, build new connections, and learn new things about other people and try to find things we have in common. So an easy activity here is a simple like this or that activity where we have people standing in the room and we say, okay, pick a side of the room based on which you like more. So it could be like cats or dogs, chocolate or vanilla ice cream, or maybe a beach trip versus a mountain trip. And we're getting people to physically see who else has that in common with them. Maybe give them a few minutes to talk about it. Oh, what's your favorite beach to go to? What's your favorite mountain? When are you going next? Things like that. Just again, we're going a little bit deeper with these getting to know you games. And Lauren, I was thinking about when we were talking about icebreakers and how we're trying to like dip our toe in. I feel like we should change the name to ice melters, where we're like slowly melting it instead of cannonballing into the ice to break it. It's like, this is that next level of an icebreaker. Okay, we're being even more intentional with the conversations.
Love it.
Yes. And then our next stop on the team building roadmap is breaking for group conversation. This is a super important part to remember. And again, helps bring people together in a different way. So it's really just breaking teams into smaller groups to discuss the activities along the way and not just waiting till the end. But even after the this or that activity, like I mentioned, you have people talking. Or if we're doing other activities, you want to have just a few people, maybe like 4 to 5 people in a group talking about what they learned, something interesting or something that surprised them. And this will help people really learn some communication skills. So whether it's building up confidence in someone to speak up in meetings in the future, or even practice public speaking, maybe it's someone who's working as an individual contributor, they don't share as much in front of groups. This can help ease them into it. So an idea here of how to implement this is even thinking about the small group debrief. You're maybe at a small table and everyone's sharing individually. You get 1 minute a person to share with that small group, and then you're nominating someone to share back with the greater group. We've probably all seen that before. But what you want to do is then switch who that designated speaker is so that everyone's getting a turn, everyone gets to practice communication skills, public speaking, things like that. And obviously, again, we're all learning more about each other as we're sharing in smaller groups as well. All right, what's next on the roadmap, Lauren?
Oh, it's the creative problem solving zone. Look out. Okay. So I love this part. So this is all about collaboration, communication, time management, and problem solving. So that's like the build a bike. It's something that's different. I don't want to make assumptions, but I would guess that a lot of us don't regularly build bikes all the time together, right? So you probably, Jen's like, yeah, I do actually. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, so it's where you're taking them a little bit outside their comfort zone. They haven't done this before. They are given a project, certain materials, an assignment, a goal, and they're working together. And what's key with this also, like Brittany mentioned before about the group collaboration, is this is people that don't regularly work together necessarily on their team, that don't already have that established rapport. Or if they do, again, we're taking them a little bit deeper. What we don't want to do is have the 4 same people that already work together and work together pretty well, in pods. We want to mix it up so that you're having a chance to be exposed to a new person. So this can take on a lot of different forms. It also can depend on your industry. Can I give them the example that we
Yes.
did?
Yes.
Okay. The salon. Okay. So there was a hair salon that we worked with, and Brittany and I were brainstorming about what could their project be, because we like to customize when we do this for team building for clients. We always like to do what would kind of appeal to the client. If it's, whether it's for a charity, they want it to be a donation based. Okay, we can do that. Or if you want it to be more like your specific industry, or you give us carte blanche and we'll create something really fun. So what we did with this salon is we were like, okay, these people are all creatives already. Let's build off of that. So what we did is we split them up into groups that they don't normally connect with. And like next to their chair or in their salon. And then they each had a bag of materials that we gave them. And then they had a set amount of time to pick a model, create a head accessory. So they were designing something completely unique. And then there was a fashion show at the end. Now, it's very important for us anyway. We're not kind of in encouraging a lot of competition, because team building is not necessarily fighting each other unless it's like for a greater good, like who can win the most money for charity. That's one thing. But if it's like, oh, we won, you guys suck, that's another. That's not building up the team. That's kind of like, creating rifts. Anyway, so instead of voting for your favorite, which one was the best, we did a fashion show. So they had pictures, they had video, they had fun afterwards. We had the music playing. It was great. We also created roadblocks for them, because ultimately, when you are working together as a team, there's going to be challenges that come across, So what happened at one point was they were down to about 10 minutes left. They were assembling their costumes on their models. And by the way, we said a head accessory. They went full out ball gown. Like they were extra. It was incredible. So at one point, roadblock, we pulled the models aside, and I stood there with them for 5 minutes and said, I just want to make sure that your team is treating you correctly. Is everything okay? And they're like, what's happening? Why can't we need to get back to the group? And the group's like, we need to get going. Come on. We're creating a roadblock. We're creating a stressor. That's what happens in your everyday life. Also, Brittany, we were talking about this earlier. Tell them what you mentioned about the great thing.
Yeah, the other roadblock we added was, oh no, the great resignation is happening. And we had one team member from each team swap teams. So it's, again, making it real life. This happens all the time, as your team is going to change. People get a different job, people get laid off, and we need to kind of practice those skills too. So that was a fun one as well.
Yeah. Getting them back engaged with a new team. How can we create rapport with them, still meet our deadlines? So it was a high pressure situation, and it was really fun. It was really fun. And then of course the takeaways they had, well, the visual takeaways anyways, they had the memories from the experience, but then they also had the videos and the pictures. So it was really cool.
Yeah, everyone was busting out their phone at the end for the fashion show, taking photos. And I will emphasize or re-emphasize the fact that this is why we customize it for the group, because again, we knew they were very creative people. We knew they would love an event like this, but we also wouldn't do this, fashion show for a group of, bankers probably. Like I imagine we would, think of something a little different for that. So that's why we kind of talk with the group ahead of time, get to know what they love to do. And this group, the leaders said that they're very creative. They want to do things very hands-on. They don't want to just be sitting there all day. So we took that and ran with it, and they loved it.
I'm gonna mention something else that you reminded me of, Brittany, and this is where this is what I use when I have client calls. And this, I think, would also be really helpful if you plan team building with your own organization, is asking the magic wand question. And I wasn't planning on sharing this, so this is like a big bonus. You're welcome. But here's the question. Wave your magic wand. What do you want the end to look like? What is the ultimate purpose of this? So if you're tasked with team building at your organization, or you're planning it yourself for your own team, and you're thinking, what is that ultimate outcome? Ask yourself that, or ask your leader that, so that can help you make sure that it's structured exactly how you want it to look. It's the end, so that you can work backwards. That's what we like to do too. We like to work backwards. Okay. Thanks, Jen. All right. Next up.
Yes, last stop on our team building roadmap is back to the workplace. And I know I've probably said the word intentional 100 times already, but I'm going to keep saying it because we need to be really intentional with team building. Again, that's what's going to differentiate it from team bonding. And this is the takeaway here is applying these learnings into your day-to-day work. And this is the number one area I see most companies forgetting to do when it comes to team building. Again, when they're only focused on that middle section where they have an activity, we're getting to know each other. But then what comes next? Are you having some sort of debrief at the end? And that's what it usually looks like for us, having intentional conversations at the end, asking specific questions and prompts of, what's going to change in the future. So some simple questions, thinking about, maybe you met someone new today or got to know someone better than you have before. How are you going to continue that connection going forward? Are you going to plan lunch together next week or meet up for a 15-minute coffee break next week? Or, what's one new thing you will do to work more collaboratively in the future? What are some of those skills you learned today? Now, how can we bring that into your day-to-day work? Or even maybe what's one thing you'll stop doing? Maybe you had some eye-opening realizations that you've been making assumptions about people that are in certain roles or in different situations than you. And how can you change that going forward to work better together?
Love it. So that is the team building roadmap. You see all of these stops. So you, like Brittany said, you've got the beginning, the middle, and the end. I think the end is often neglected because we just move right back on to work. But why did we spend this time together? So yes, I love that you said all that. So one thing also that happens in team building is it's a very, very collaborative experience. Now, we've been sharing a lot of information with you. So this is not typical of the programs that we do, but we wanted to go through those examples with you and we wanted to go through the roadmap with you. So now it's your turn. What questions do you have? How can you see this kind of like being implemented? What thoughts, like we want you to get the most out of your experience today on the webinar. So do you have any specific questions? Was there anything you were looking to get out of today's call that you'd like to address? Open format.
Yeah, feel free to drop it in the chat or come off mute.
Yeah.
So I have, I always have something.
I love it.
I love the roadmap. I love the structure. This is really well thought out. I definitely feel like there's a lot of people at my organization that could benefit from this. And I love the breakdown. So do you have, you're just thinking ahead, thinking to me taking this to different people within my organization, do you have like a one-sheeter on how you break down that roadmap? I mean, if not, I've taken a lot of notes, but how you break down that roadmap with the organizer or with the manager, so that they're not just, oh, just figure it out, it's fine, whatever. How do you go about making that, or not making them, but having them come up with that ultimate outcome that you want to do team building why kind of thing? So what's some of your strategies for that?
Yeah, Brittany, I would love for you to answer that as far as like a little bit of sneak peek of what we're providing at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So surprise, part of our good news is we did make a free download because again, like what you're saying, it's helpful to see it step by step and you want to understand, okay, what does this mean? Why is it important? And what are some examples? So we do have that. It's like, I think it's one page for each of the 5 stops on the roadmap, basically what you saw here, just so that you can then share it with other people as well.
I do like that question of how do they get to the outcome that they want? And that's where it's also important to have that conversation of what does that look like? Like, what is your individual company's roadmap? What is the destination? Ooh, what is the destination? Look at us using the roadmap terms. Like, where do you want to end up at the end? And then, continuing on further. Does that answer your question? Did we answer your question, Stephanie?
It does. It's just, there's people with a growth mindset who are like, oh, here's what I want to happen. And then there are people with more of a fixed mindset who are like, I just want a team building session. What do you mean ultimate outcome? You have people on both sides. And so, unfortunately, it's the reality. It's the reality. We would hope that if someone is organizing a team building space or activity or a morale event that includes a team building piece, that they would have an answer to team building that's thought out, that's, defined, but that's not always the case. So what kind of questions would you ask to help them get to that goal, or get to defining a goal? not get to the goal, but get to the definition of what is your ultimate outcome. When they say, I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely see that a lot with companies too. A lot of times, unfortunately, this area becomes just a check the box. We do it once a year, we do it once a quarter, check the box, we did it. And a lot of times it does fall into the, oh, we had a happy hour or a Christmas party or something, where it often also gets delegated to people where, this is a side project. This isn't their day-to-day work. They're not thinking as strategically about it. They're like, okay, I need to find a venue. I need to find food, drink. And they're thinking more just as an event and not the team building. So there's that huge disconnect. Usually leadership is like, we need team building. Someone planning it is like, I'm planning an event. And then no one's thinking about the actual team building. So first of all, we see that. That's a great place to start, is okay, how are we building the team? What is the intentionality behind it? Are we just checking a box? Or, a lot of times even like our conversations with potential clients is like what Lauren said too, like wave the magic wand. What would you want it to look like at the end? Like what's different than your day-to-day right now? And how would maybe people be acting differently in the workplace going forward, or next week afterwards? How would it look differently? So you kind of want to get to some of the, honestly, like pain points within the team of what's not working right now that we want to focus on. Or it could be, maybe it's like the beginning of the year and we want to talk about our goals for the year or something like that. And we want everyone to be excited about the new year ahead, or excited about all the amazing things we accomplished at the end of the year. So I'd say maybe some of those questions of, what do we want the team to do differently moving forward? What do we want them to be excited about? And coming with some intentionality. What about you, Lauren? Any other questions you can think about?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that it's a lot in what you call in sales, like the discovery process of asking the questions, like, why do you want this? Oh, I'm checking a box off. Okay. So then that's up to us. It's like the investigators on the call. Okay. So what do you want the outcome to look like? Like, what is the goal? What problems are there? Sometimes leaders don't know what the problems are either. And we're not saying that it's a one size fits all, because we customize everything we do. And it's also not an easy fix. It's like sometimes people just like, oh, send this person to training because they're, they need communication skills. You can't just go to a training and just be fixed. It's part of the process. But I think if we can uncover, oh, there's some weaknesses here, or there was a client that we worked with, it was like, oh, these people are pretty siloed. They just only talk to their friends. Okay, well, we're going to do our best in this to start to break that down. But in a 4-hour session, we can help with that, but it's not like completely fixed. But I think if it's at least starts with awareness, then you can benefit. I'm not really enhancing the answer at all. I'm just talking, but I like Brittany's answer. Yeah.
Oh, well, you did add to like, so the note that I took was what soft skills need to be improved, like the skills that are necessary to humanity, but not everyone has.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you for a very good question. Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. So, as y'all were describing, like kind of the first 3 stops of the roadmap, after the icebreaker, when you described the second step of getting more intentional with the get to know you games, my mind immediately went to, okay, now the conversation comes back to work topics, and we're diving deep into, maybe there's folks explaining their role to someone that they don't typically work with or what have you, but the examples that y'all gave were less work focused. Is that intentional, or could you go both ways? Do you want to avoid really talking about your day-to-day in these moments and kind of set that aside for the time being? What have you seen in, whenever you've done this with folks on what tends to be more successful?
Yeah, great question. Brittany, do you want to take that?
I'll jump in and then definitely add, because a few thoughts come to mind. Is, again, kind of going off the last question too, it kind of depends on what the team is going through and what they want to get out of the session. So I could see it going either way. And I think some of ours, when we've done it, we can go with either, professional or personal examples. I think a lot of times people generally want more of the personal as a way to it's a little bit easier to warm up. And it depends on the size of the team too, how well they know each other, because it could be maybe cross departments. So there's different teams that work, like smaller pods of teams that work well together, and they already know what each other do. So it wouldn't make sense to talk about it. But then if you're mixing across departments, that would be super helpful to say, hey, what does a marketing manager even do? What does your day-to-day look like? That would be a really helpful and beneficial activity, I think, for certain groups. So again, it kind of depends on the last question of what's the point, why we're here. Lauren, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. So I think that, and I love that you caught that, James, because I think it can go either and a mix. So we've also done it where there's incorporating work questions as well as social questions. So it's not work, like Rihanna, but it's also not like, we can't talk about work here. We can't talk about work here. And I think and exactly, Brittany, it depends on the work dynamic too. So if it's a smaller team, you may not need to talk about cross-functional because they're all on the same team. But if it's a larger part of a larger group experience, then absolutely. I think it depends on your outcome. But I love that you asked that. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thoughts? Okay.
I have one.
Oh, yeah.
So kind of backing up to the beginning of the roadmap, how do you two kind of look at setting the stage for the activity? So before we get into the icebreakers and right into the meat of the activity, I guess, like, how do you set those expectations for kind of what we're hoping to get out of whatever the exercise is without telling people what they need to learn?
Yeah, Lauren, want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. And then please hop in too. Telling them, it's like, okay, today's session is team building, and we really want to prioritize getting to know each other and interacting with people we don't normally interact with. So it is setting the stage. It's telling them the expectations, and it may look different. That's where we incorporate that magic wand question too. It's where it may look different from group to group, and it typically does, especially if it's if it's a much larger group versus a small group. The dynamic is going to be a little bit different. And if there's like a specific project, or if it's like a charity, then that might be, in that case, for that company, it might be that main focus, but then it's additional. So it's like, I don't want to say it's not second hand team building, but it's almost like you don't beat them over the head with it. You just kind of let it organically happen. So I think it depends, but I'd like for Brittany to take it away from here, Brittany.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I agree that we have to start the day or the event with, hey, here's why we're here today. Like, this event, this is why it's planned, because we found too, again, when it comes to planning these events, a lot of people in the company, it's more, this is an event, I need a venue, I need food, I need drinks, whatever. And they're sending out an invite, show up at this place at this time for a team building event. And it's like, people show up and they have no idea what they're walking into. That happens all the time, and they have no reason, usually not much context for why they're there. It's like, okay, I have to be here. My boss told me I need to be here. I'm here. Now, what do you want from me? So even before we go into any activities, we need to set that stage. Here's why we're here today. Here's some things we're going to work through or talk about, or some, we're going to do some activities. We're going to keep you up and moving. We want you all to bond more, or again, bringing in that magic wand, what they want from the event. But then when we introduce the individual activities and games, we give a little bit of a teaser, of course, of like what it is, of course, and we have to walk through it and explain it. But then at the end, we bring it back around, if we haven't touched on it yet, of you may find yourself, working through communication skills, doing this activity. We don't give it away, like you said at the beginning, of, as you're doing this, think about your communication skills, because that's just going to distract people. And obviously it doesn't sound as fun. You're like, yay, I can't wait to work on my communication skills while learning about people I work with. So it's more, we ease them into it, make it, about the fun, about getting to know each other first. And then at the end, we ask those prompts in small groups and everything to help them kind of reiterate what they learned and share it with other people, share it with the whole group. And then if they haven't already touched on it, is when we add in these extra layers of, okay, you might have learned this new skill without even realizing it.
and you don't want it to be a gotcha moment, like, hey, we have a meeting. What is the purpose of the meeting? I don't know. Hey, everyone, let's talk about our feelings for 2 hours. No, you need to, they need to know what they're walking into. You don't have to tell them, we're going to build a bike, we're going to create a fashion show, but we're going to have a team building experience. Please come, even if it's like before the event, like, please come dressed comfortably. If it's outside, there's going to be a ropes course. We're going to do all that kind of stuff. Setting the expectations that they're not walking in and then they're not prepared or they're uncomfortable. We want them to be comfortable, but it's also about having fun. We're giving you a lot of information, but this is actually fun. Like, it's fun and engaging at the same time. It's not just like Brittany said, communication skills, let's talk. That's not it. So they answer your question, Lauren?
Yes, thank you.
You want to give them enough context, but we're not telling them everything. And that's also where the debriefs come in handy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I did one. Yeah, thank you for asking. I did I was in this leadership program years and years ago, and we had an experience where we had to go into these different rooms, and they didn't tell us anything. And that was part of the experience, was we were trying to figure out what was going on. And it was very frustrating. I was in one of the most frustrating groups, because it was like a hierarchy experience, but they intentionally didn't tell us anything. And it was because they wanted us to be frustrated, Brittany and I don't want to frustrate people. We want to bring people together, but it was like a I forget the word, but it was they were just trying a simulation, but it was designed to be that way. So it's also like, what's the goal? If you want to frustrate people, that's a way to do it. I don't want to do that, though. We don't do that. We're all about having a good time, a meaningful good time. But these are great questions. Any other questions before we go on to the next one? Okay. We are winding down, everybody. This has been a lot of fun, a lot of information. But does anyone have any key takeaways? What you've taken back? I know you all had mentioned that you've taken some notes. You've asked some wonderful questions. Any nuggets that you're going to be able to implement? I have one, and that's come up a couple of times. That came up in the preparation of this, is, again, just as a reminder of the assumptions. I remember back working with companies as an employee where I just assumed something about someone and I'd never actually gotten to know them. And I think that as humans, we're wired to kind of do that, to put people in boxes, but we need to challenge ourselves not to do that, because it can be a really limiting experience. So that's the takeaway for me.
Yeah, I'd say one of my takeaways when we're talking about this is always the 3 parts of a story, the beginning, middle, and end. But I like how Lauren was talking about it, kind of, we're like slowly dipping our toe in. So it's like a slow wind up into the middle. And then we also have to remember to come back down. And I think that's really important for, again, biggest takeaway for me is like keeping that in mind and not just jumping right into the water. And then we never talk about this day ever again. We need to have that on ramp and off ramp of our roadmap like that.
Lauren put in the chat, adding a roadblock into the creative activity resonated. Yeah, that's also fun. It's fun for the facilitator. You got to have some fun too. And sometimes it's like, oh, we should do this. And it's, it's either planned or it's not. It might be part of the simulation or it's not, but it's something that it's a real world scenario. People have to deal with roadblocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you guys go into do these events, how do you, and if you do, how do you kind of follow up with teams later on, right? Because kind of, Brittany, to your point of like dropping into the event, doing it, and then like, it's like it never happened. Even the good ones sometimes, I think, kind of get lost in the day-to-day. So I guess another question I would have is like, how do you guys pursue follow-ups, or how do you kind of recommend that people internally follow up?
Yeah, I mean, we've kept in touch with leaders, and I think that's a good takeaway for us is like, is there something that we can do to make it last longer too? Or, I mean, it's kind of part of our like debrief at the end is we're asking them, what are they going to do differently and how can they implement it, for sure. But I think even for Lauren and I, we could kind of do that accountability with them as well to say, hey, have you seen any shifts in culture, or just people collaborating better, or maybe better attitudes across the workplace? So I'd say it's both internally for them, but then also for us, we could do more with that. What do you think, Lauren?
Yeah, I agree. There's somebody that we did a very small group team building with that I just happen to see socially. So I've checked in with her. And just as a side note, there was one employee who was a little bit of the crux of the issue, and that employee is not there anymore. And they're a better team. I'm not suggesting that as a let's edit this out of the recording, Brittany. I'm not suggesting that as a answer, because that person voluntarily left. But it's interesting how individuals can shift team dynamics too. And that's something to discuss in the discovery process when you're really getting down to why are we doing this and different team dynamics. And if, like, I've worked with someone who was like one of the most negative people I've ever met, if I was to go and do a team building with that group, knowing what I know now about that dynamic, and I was told that, then I would be encouraging positive facing outcomes, positive facing questions, encouraging people to say, what was the coolest part of your weekend? What's the best thing about this project? What's the coolest part of your jobs? To get them to start thinking about the positive. So that's just like an example of how to you're not fixing the person, but you're maybe encouraging a little bit of a positive interaction with them. But that's a really good question of what we can do. And we could probably do more with that than we have. That's why we're having this webinar, so that we can learn from you all too. So thank you for that inadvertent suggestion.
And I love that suggestion, because I feel like it will one, bring you a lot of learning, but then also that follow-up with them will show that you're not just doing this to be done. You're doing this because you want them to continue moving forward. And I do feel like that if that shows, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I just want to follow up on how everything went, how do you feel things are going? Do you feel that there was impact? If so, why? If not, why not? That kind of thing. I feel like not only will you learn, but they will also learn, because maybe it's because they didn't give you the information about the negativity. Maybe it's because they didn't give you the information about these other things that are known things to this group, but they're not known to you. And maybe it leads to another team building activity that's more focused on the things that they didn't focus on before.
Love that. Love that. And we do follow up the client, and we do ask them for feedback, but I don't think that, I think there's definitely an opportunity to do it like further on and as an additional touch point. I love that.
Yeah,
idea.
I'm not talking about right after. I'm like a week, 2 weeks, a month down the road kind of thing.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm looking at these. Thank you for these. I'm looking at the chat here. Important to know the goal of the team building. Yeah, work backwards. What's the goal? So it's not just checking off a box, like Brittany said. The goal, adding a roadblock. It's not too competitive. Yeah, you don't want people to be distracted in the debrief because they were mad that they didn't win in the team building, especially if you're with a competitive group. Sometimes that can be fun. That might also be needing to go in the team building or team bonding category as opposed to the team building category, because it's kind of an opposing thing in my mind anyway, if there's a lot of competition. And if it's not just like friendly or feel good competition. All right, cool. We're ready to go to the next thing, Brittany?
Yeah, let's do it.
But wait, there's more. Tell them about it, Brittany.
Yeah, the good news for today is that you don't have to do this yourself. You're not alone in this. You can have this done for you by people that we know pretty well. Wait, who's that? Wait, us. Yes. So we have a few options of how we help teams with this. First, the interactive hour. This is really focusing on that beginning part of the story, quote unquote, where we're helping to warm people up. We're hosting the icebreakers, some team games, getting people warmed up, getting to know each other. And then usually you have an activity already planned, or you're working with someone else on that activity. Or our signature program is the half day of fun, where we're bringing in both the beginning with the icebreakers, we're bringing in the middle part with our custom creative team project, like we mentioned earlier with the fashion show, or whatever that custom activity is for your group and your needs. And obviously doing the debriefing moments along the way and at the end to give you the end-to-end experience. But then also our other option is a fully facilitated retreat. So this is if you're doing more of like an all day or a half day team retreat where you're maybe doing more of the planning, goal setting, strategic planning for the team or the business if it's a small business, and we can help you work through that. So like an end to end, you're building out plans for the year, plans for the quarter, I've seen as well, and you want to have that fun and interactive session as well. So we can really do it all, honestly. I mean, Lauren and I have figured some things out in this.
Love it.
Yes.
So yes, the signature program, Half Day of Fun, that's like our baby. That's where we play the most, but we're happy to do either of the other two. It's kind of like the medium, the small, the large. The medium that's like our sweet spot. And then we do have the download, like we mentioned, with Stephanie's amazing question. So we would love for you to provide us with feedback. And let me see if I can get that.
Oh yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to put the link in the chat, but also if you have a QR code scanner and you could scan, it's a quick survey. Once the recording has finished processing, I will send you access to that as well as the free download. So you won't get the free download immediately, but submit the survey. Let us know your thoughts. We would love to hear from you. We really value feedback. And then we will send that to you. So grab that, please. And again, yeah, Brittany linked it in the chat. And then, or put the link in the chat rather. And then lastly, ready?
Yeah, and then obviously if this is something you want our support with, please reach out to us. The QR code on the left, and I'll put this link in the chat as well, is to book a call with me directly. We can talk through, your needs, your team, timing, all of that. And I saw Stephanie asked how much lead time do you need to schedule these? Usually it's, I'd say a month-ish, just because there is some, prep time we need to call to make sure we're a good fit, but then also usually a prep call to make sure, okay, the details, and we can give kind of an outline of our recommended activities, events. And then usually, obviously, companies are booking these out at least a month out because they need to find venues and all of that. So at least a month, and then however far out really you want to, we can figure something out.
Yay.
That's us.
And that was it. So, oh my gosh, amazing questions. Thank you so much for spending this hour with us. This has been awesome. And I've gotten some good takeaways from this as well. I'm going to stop my recording if I can. I'm going to stop the share as well. How do I stop the recording? There it is. Thanks.